In 1990, the first Festival Foods store opened. The Skogen family currently operates 30-plus Festival food stores and has over 7,000 employees throughout Wisconsin, and it was really Dave's brainchild in coming up with that, along with D.B. Reinhardt. Dave was previously named Wisconsin Grocer of the Year and National IGA Retailer of the Year. Dave and his wife Barb were named Outstanding Philanthropists in 2007 for their community involvement as awarded by the Association of Fundraising Professionals Upper Mississippi Valley Chapter. Dave and Barb also received the 2017 People of the Year Award from the LaCrosse Tribune for their impact in the LaCrosse area, especially their recent development of downtown Onalaska, along with their initiative to provide local schools with whole child servant leadership curriculum, Character Strong, which is now adopted by over 20 local schools. Dave and Barb have been married for 50 years. They have 2 children, Sue and Mark. Mark is the president and CEO of the company. They're also grandparents of 4 lovely grandchildren. In 2013, Dave wrote that book, Boomerang: Leadership Principles That Bring Customers Back, which is sold here today and online. Today, Dave will cover key characteristics that have developed Festival's winning culture and how you too can win by implementing these traits not only in your work life, but also in your personal life. So, men of leading with power, will you please give a warm welcome to Dave Skogen. Dave.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Let me start out, but I think I need to introduce to you a couple people. First of all, Greg Hoosman is my friend who chauffeured me here. Yes, I still can drive, but he's my navigating guy and friend, and he wanted to see what this was all about. Greg, just throw your hand up. The other guy I'm going to ask to stand up, his name is Ben Skogen, a shirt-tail relative of ours. And the reason I want to introduce him is because he is a resident of the campus here at Madison. He's a senior, graduating soon, and he was a 4-year letter winner on the golf team with the Badgers. And looking now for his next career choice, and if there's any insurance people in here, this guy is kind of thinking that way, just to give you an idea. He's a bright young guy, and I think you'll enjoy meeting him if you get a chance. So, servant leadership. First of all, let me give you a fun fact also to go with my resume. I've had 1 wife, 1 job, and lived in 1 community for 76 years. And when you talk about 6 decades, I like to talk about maybe 7 decades. This picture up here is where I haven't advanced that yet, is where I grew up. That's my father out there, and the home on your left is where my brothers and I grew up. We could walk from the kitchen into the first aisle of the 2-aisle supermarket. We rode our bikes and trikes up and down those 2 aisles, dribbled a basketball, sat down and ate candy bars or whatever we wanted to eat. Store closed at 6 o'clock every night, every Sunday, and every holiday closed. Quite a difference today. But that's how it was. We had jobs back then that we don't have today. I mean, think about this. There's not too many people, as I look around, that remembered in the 40s there was no plastic or canned soda. It was all glass, and so you paid a deposit, you brought the bottles back, and us kids could sort pop bottles by vendor as 5 and 6 and 7-year-old kids. Potatoes came in 100-pound sacks. Dad would bust them open in the back of the store, and we'd scoop them up and put them in 10-pound bags. Eggs came in 30 dozen containers, and as a 5-year-old, you could take them out of a container and put them in a dozen container. So we had jobs, enjoyable jobs. It was fun. It was just part of living in a store, so to speak. So that's how this all happened. Today we're going to talk about leadership, not management. Leadership is who we are. Management is what we do. I'm going to differentiate that for you. We're going to talk about neck up stuff and how important it is that we start getting our teammates who are entrusted to our care from the neck up. We need more than their hands and feet. And that's the crux of my presentation. If you think about this for a bit, the only reason your organization and mine exist is to meet a human need. When we fail to meet that human need or somebody does it better than us, we no longer exist. Plain and simple. Therefore, we need to get people from the neck up. We need to develop strong leadership teams. It's not as important as it used to be just to know the X and O's and have a nice degree and have the brain thrust behind it. We got to get people's hearts and souls, and that's where servant leadership comes in. I don't believe there's anything new here you're going to learn today, but we need to remind people more than we need to instruct them. We really believe that. We needed to be reminded as children how to behave. We still need to be reminded what's important, behaviors that we need to get into our game. We need to break old habits and learn new ones, and we all got some habits. And that's kind of my goal today, to talk to you about some of the stuff that we have that everybody knows about that we need to change if we're going to grow and believe in continuous improvement. No magic dust I'm going to sprinkle on you. Just going to shake your tree a little bit, perhaps. Some lessons that I've learned is that you and I we're all in the same profession. Everybody in this room is in the same profession. We were created by God to serve and enrich lives of other people. And if you believe in that theory, you understand the mechanic and the doctor in the same profession. One repairs cars and the other one repairs bodies and humans. The educator and the grocer are in the same profession, serving and enriching lives of others. That's our higher purpose. That's why we were created. Not to sell, not to become wealthy, not to become more successful than somebody else. Just continuous improvement. Here's what Martin Luther King had to say about serving. Martin Luther King Jr., had to say about serving. He said, everybody can be great because anyone can serve. You don't need a college degree to serve. You need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. That's a servant leader to me. Heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Putting somebody else's needs before your own needs. They'll come back to you tenfold. I've also learned that people leave management. They don't leave companies. You look at your turnover rate, you have an exit review, and you talk about why are we really making a change here. A good percentage of the time, they're leaving somebody, their supervisor, their manager, that they spend half of their waking hours with, is a jerk. Is selfish, is arrogant, puts their needs before mine, isn't pushing me to grow. I'm out of here. People leave management, they don't leave companies. I also learned that winners never see themselves as always at their best. But those mediocre people that work with us, they're always at their best. I can't believe why they're not growing with a company. They're going to get out of here. I've learned that leadership is a learned and acquired skill. We can't blame our ancestors for our failures or our teachers. We're on the hook, folks. All we got to do is think back at our terrible twos. Do we have leadership in those days? Were we saying please and thank you and putting other people first? It was all about us. And sometimes that stays with us forever. Yep. Winners never see themselves as always. They're always pushing to become better, reminding themselves how they're going to behave, how to develop their own character. I've learned that success is a process, and we experience it over time. It's those little things that we do, like building relationships with leading with power. Those are the little things that will make us successful. Here's the key: failure is also. Failure is a process. It isn't going to take just one big mistake, but you keep failing and you will be a failure. I also learned that nobody became a better manager by reading a book or watching a video or listening to me or Jim Hunter or whoever speak. We're going to teach you today about leadership. That video that you buy or that book that you read about leadership will teach you about leadership. Now you got to get it into your game. I can't tell you how many of our teammates will be talking about the Boomerang book and say, oh yeah, I read your book, Dave. You must love and appreciate me for that. But you know what? I've read that book. After spending 3 years, you'd think I'd almost have it memorized. I read that book probably twice a year. Not all at one time, maybe on a treadmill, just short chapters. I'm reading it because I need to be reminded. And this is stuff that I wrote. This is stuff that I learned and stole from the Jack Welches and the Jim Collins of the world and Jim Hunter. I also learned that we don't manage people. That's a big one. We get confused with that. We just think that we're not going to advance that slide, perhaps. There we go. Management leadership. That bird, that eagle does not fly without both of them. And I want to tell you today, and I think most of you people know this, that corporations are looking for that leadership wing. That leadership wing, who we are, a set of virtues, humble, fearless, selfless, kind, honest, more of a plow horse than a show horse. That's what we're looking for when we're talking to people, when we're talking to the Bens of the world today. What's his character like? Is it all about him? Does he really want to serve people? If he's going to be in this insurance business, is it because it's going to be a career where he can golf the rest of the time when he isn't working? Or is he going to be an educator because I love these summers off, I love to boat? He's thinking about serving people. How many lives can I change by that policy that I sell or that financial plan that I put together for somebody? My serving, I still get a little bit of high at 76 years old, helping that little old lady that's looking up at the mushrooms. She's about 4'5" and she's elderly, and she's saying, she doesn't know me from a good grade of meat. I'm walking in the store, I got a coat on, not a sport coat, and I'm walking in, and I can tell she needs help. I got a choice. Am I going to serve her, or am I going to go back to that meat department where I've got to meet with that meat man, and it's on my mind, and it's urgent? I stop and I serve her. I know what she's going to ask me. She can't reach something. And I reach those 2 cans of mushrooms she wanted, or jars. I put them in her cart, and she looks at me and thanks me profusely. She makes my day, and I made her day. That's what serving is about. All right, servant leadership. Defined, a servant is one who meets legitimate needs of others and seeks their greatest good. Again, getting back to putting other people's needs before your own. Identifies legitimate needs. We're going to talk about that a little later. Leadership is a skill of influencing people. Influencing is the big word here. Can you influence people? Yep. So how do we define a servant leader? How do we see one or have one in our workforce and we know who they are? I'm looking for that humility, that person that's really, really humble. You become really, really humble, you'll be real, real successful, in my opinion. I don't care what field it's in. Living the truth of your strengths and your weaknesses. Being aware of what you don't know, not being afraid to let other people know that you don't know everything. You don't have all the answers. That's humility. I want to work for that kind of guy or gal. I can help him or her grow this company. Servant leaders always tell the truth. And that takes courage, because holding people accountable is telling them the truth. If I got somebody that's entrusted my care, for example, if Ben comes to work for Festival Foods, I have a responsibility to grow him. And I got to tell him the truth, what his stuff is. Someone had to tell me my stuff, and I'm thankful for that. I'll get into that a little later. But that takes courage to tell the truth. Servant leaders take blame, and they don't care who gets credit for things. We all have worked with people who said, well, that was my idea. I know Bob, it came down from higher office, but I gave Bob that idea. They care about who takes credit. They're not afraid to cause friction, and that's a big one. You know, we needed friction as we were growing up. We caused friction with our own children. But here we are with a group of people, it could be one, it could be 40, 50 people entrusted to your care, and we're afraid to cause friction with them. When you think about it in sport, we're all sport fans, think of the friction that coaches have to cause to Ben. I bet you he could tell all kinds of stuff where the coach told him stuff that he's thankful for today. Trust me now, understand me later. You made me a better golfer. I didn't like it at the time, but I understand it now. Wow, that friction is a big thing. The world is littered with managers who think, as long as everybody's happy here, we're okay. My job's secure. You got my back, I got your back. There's a lot of those kind of leaders, if we want to call them that. It wouldn't happen in sport, would it? They'd be gone if they didn't push those kids to excellence. Here's a big one. This is from Mother Teresa. Servant leaders understand there's no nobility in being better than somebody else. It's not our job to undo competition. Continuous improvement is what we're looking for. I'll give you a little example of that. We have these 3-day or 2-day meat sales 3 times a year in our company, and they're always the same month. So Kevin comes up to me, and I said to him, Kevin, how'd you do in the meat 3-day sale, 2-day sale? He said, oh, great. So we were number 2 in the company. I said, how did that compare with last year's sales in January? He said, well, I don't know. So I was, the next time I come in, dig that up and see what it was like. So I did. I come in, and he said, we're down 2.3 or 2.5%. How do you feel now, Kevin? You got some work to do. What did we do wrong? Did you run out of some items? Did we select the wrong items? You're down 2.5%, and you're bragging about the fact that you're number 2 in the company. There's no nobility in being better than somebody else. We're the 2nd largest in the state, or we're the 3rd largest in the state. No nobility. The real leadership test is, do people leave you better than when they came? And you could take that from the golf coach to the basketball coach to the insurance company that has 30, 40 people working with them. So let's talk about culture. What is culture anyway? Whoops, back one. Culture is the way we do things around here. It's how a group members actually behave repeatedly, habitually. That's how culture is. In our stores, we stole an idea from Sam Walton that we come within 10 tile of a guest, we're going to greet them. That's part of our culture. The stores being impeccably clean is part of our culture. We need to look at our culture. We need to keep growing it and making it better. So here's a few recipes for building a winning team. You got to hire people with character. Best defined by Jim Hunter, our mentor, is moral maturity. Our character is our moral maturity. It's influence, our willingness to do the right thing even when we don't want to do it. That struggle that we have every day with things that we want to do versus things we ought to do. I'd like to call in sick today. I haven't been sick. The boss loves me. But what happens if I do call in sick? Who's going to suffer? The other teammates? The guests that need my service? I don't care about them. Me first. That's not a servant leader. So, it's easy to hire people we like and people that have experience. We know that. We've done it a lot, our company. When I'll go into a store, say in Fond du Lac, and I see a new assistant manager, store manager, meat manager, I say, he knew? Yeah, we hired him from Pick and Save. 20 years experience. And they know what's coming next. Would it be possibly 1 year's experience 20 times? Is it somebody that we hired because we liked? We all had those people, would you interview so-and-so? He's my next door neighbor, and I tell you, he's a great guy. Easy to hire those people, but we got to hire people of character. We got to dig deeper. Look for the person that can learn over the person that knows it all. You want people to follow you. They got to trust your competence, but even more so, they got to trust your character. Here's two questions I used to enjoy asking when I was doing interviewing. Why are you leaving company XYZ? And you got to dig deep on that one, because they're going to give you an answer that's going to be something you want to hear, like, "Oh, I just think your company's the greatest, and I hear a lot of good things. My neighbor works for you," and oh yeah. I want more of an answer than I'm going to dig deep till I get the truth. And usually you hear about the bad manager, the bad supervisor, the bad boss. So what's a good boss look like to you, Bill? Dig deep. Don't hire people for the trophies they won. I think I got a slide on that one. Nope. So find people that want to grow, want to ask questions, and you'll be happy that you did. The other question I like to ask sometimes is how much success do you give credit to your parents from this nice resume you have here? And if they dig in and really talk about their mom and dad, or one of the two, about how they affected their life and still are affecting their life positively, that's a good sign. On the other hand, the guy that doesn't want to give any credit to his parents perhaps wants it to be all about him or her. So be picky about who you let on your team, folks. It's getting crowded and slippery out there. Lives are being turned upside down, jobs lost. Hire people of character. Hold people accountable. You're paid to do so. When you signed up to be a leader, again, whether it's one person or 100, they are entrusted to your care. They spend half of their waking hours with you. You're stealing from the stockholders if you're not holding them accountable for what their stuff is, if you're not pushing them to excellence, making them grow. People need friction to grow. It may not be what they want, but it's absolutely what they need. No question about it. Somebody getting mad at you for a couple days. But when it's truthful, when it is their stuff, they will love you later for it. If you let me be mediocre working for you, I'll leave you worse than I came. Does that bother you at all? I don't need another buddy. Everybody's happy around here. Everybody else loves me. Why don't you? I don't need another buddy. I need somebody to push me to excellence. I want your job someday. So we all have A, B, and C players and some sliders. The A player is visionary, energizes others, full of energy himself or herself, willing to change, ask questions. Then the B player, not quite as visionary or driven, but boy, they're vital because they make up the majority of our work staff. And then there's a C player, sometimes known as the imposter. Perhaps very productive, but terrible to work with. That's that one person or two in your group of people that it's a happy day when they happen to resign, and we secretly applaud that happening. You got some of those folks? We do. Interviewed well, got the job, productive, but nobody wants to work with them. They're jerks. They're unkind. They're backstabbers. They talk against the company. They're always stirring up trouble. You got to re-energize those people. You got to get them back in the game or game over. Here's a C player challenge we have. Now we got 15 different departments in a grocery store. We got a produce manager or a produce assistant manager or a produce full-time employee that's entrusted to our care, and he's not doing the job. We have an option to move him to another seat on the bus from the Jim Collins book. First of all, we're going to coach him up to tell him, and we're going to tell him what the gap is, what the stuff is that's really bothering us. You're productive. Oh, yeah. You're here every day at work. But you know, Bill, not everybody wants to work with you. They're getting tired of your act. That's painful, that's hard, but it's the truth. How many of you got that in you that you're willing to take that and take it to a new level? So we coach them up. Sometimes it's a 6-month deal, sometimes it's 3 months. We're going to meet with you weekly, and we're going to talk about your stuff and see where you're going. If that doesn't work, we're going to move them to a new seat on the bus. If that doesn't work, we're going to share them with the competition. We love you and we miss you. You don't get to work here anymore. And I'm telling you, folks, we're doing it. It's not just talk. It's happening. We're asking people off the bus. We do it in sport again. We cut major league players. They have to retire or they go down to the minor leagues. Spring baseball, going to be a lot of people off the bus. Think about what's at stake when you don't take action with these C players that you have working with you. Here's what I read into it. It's not about excellence around here. No. You letting that guy hang around, or her, it's not about excellence. You talk about it. But this is a C player. They're not contributing. I don't like coming to work because of he or she. Then we have the sliders. Those are people that once good employees. They hit the wall. They interviewed well. We got 2-3 good years out of them. They're just doing excellent stuff. And all of a sudden things have changed. No bouncing a step, attitude change. Something's going on at home, or they need a new seat on the bus. They need to be re-energized, or we love you and we'll miss you. Just because of that 2-3 good, maybe 5-10 years you got out of that person, all of a sudden they turn bad on you. You got to get them re-energized. That takes strong leadership, folks. That takes somebody mad at you for a while. Maybe forever. And they go to church with you, or they golf with you. Here's a little slide on the 3 E's of corrective action. We talk about gaps. So you got this gap between performance and standard, and we got to close that gap. So you sit down with the individual and you talk about it. We talk about the difference. Maybe it's the backstabbing. That's a common one. Why is this going on, Bill? Well, everybody does. You think I'm the only one? No, let's not go there, Bill. You've been identified by myself and a few other people in this 20-member staff as just negatively talking about this company and some individuals that work with you. Do you think that's good for the morale, the culture of the company? Well, no, but again, I'm not the only one. Okay, but we're going to close your gap today. We're going to talk about how we're going to do it. We're going to explore the reasons for the gap. Why do you do this, Bill? Well, my old man was that way. I just, I grew up, my buddies that I golf with, we always get in each other's case. I mean, it's just kind of natural for me. It's not good, Bill. Not good. We're going to change that. We're going to eliminate the gap. So we agree on some kind of a plan. And I had a gap. I'll talk about my gap right now. 52 years old, CEO of this company. Yeah, we had about half the size it is today, but yet it was pretty big. And we did this little exercise that Jim Hunter, our mentor in servant leadership, gave us. 36 questions we had to fill out on ourselves. Number 6 was, is a good listener. And I could put agree, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. I put agree. I am a good listener. 36, one of the 36 questions. All 8 people, the HR gave this to 8 different people. One of them was my secretary, one of them was my son. I could read their handwriting. They had to do more than just check the box. They had to put some notes in there. They said, here's Dave. He comes in the store. I got something on my mind. I want to talk to him. He knows he's going to look me up and we're going to talk. We might not be sitting down, but I got something that's short and I'm going to tell him about it. And he's looking over my shoulder as I'm speaking to him. Nodding at the customers, nodding at other teammates. Hi, Bill. Disrespectful. So now I got to go to the panel, as the rest of the 300 people did, with their stuff. So Jim Hunter's on the panel. My son and a guy named Marlon Greenfield, you don't know. And Hunter looks at me and says, are you still a CEO, Dave? Now, Jim has been working with us for 20 years. Still a CEO? What? This surprises me. Well, it surprised me too, Jim. What are you going to do about it? We had to have a plan. And I wore on my shirts for 3 years, listen first. I was a selective listener. I was disrespectful to so many people. So I go home, I'm telling my wife about this. It was an all-day exercise with all of our people. We had 20 minutes in front of the panel. She said, I could have told you that. And she said, this is honest. Now, she said, this is the chamber banquet thing, you know, and people come up to you and are talking to you, and you're looking over the shoulder. And I said, why didn't you ever tell me that? Kind of like our employees. We don't want to hurt your feelings. Don't hold you accountable. That's not fun. That's painful. I don't want to get you mad at me. So I lived with that. I was 52 years old. Shameful. Have I fixed myself? I'm better than I used to be. Not as good as I want to be. When Brent came up to me today and said hi, and I hadn't seen him for years, I concentrated, just looking him in the eye when he's talking to me. Instead of looking, well, where's the screen, where's the podium, you know, where's the water? I mean, it's just a habit that I had, a deep-rooted habit of 30-some years. I didn't know about it till we did that exercise. Sickening, inexcusable. So the question is, before we turn to legitimate needs, is why wouldn't you want every associate that works with you to make the biggest contribution they can possibly make? Don't you think every coach wants the special teams guy, the guy that's a long snapper, they got to make the biggest contribution they can possibly make. If you're going to have the best team, that's what's got to happen. Are you willing to sacrifice something to make that happen? Legitimate needs. We all have legitimate needs. We visualize every teammate with a billboard on their body, and the front it says, appreciate me, and the back it says, make me feel important. Does anybody want to show hands or give me their hand and say, I don't really need to be felt important in my job? I know I'm good. I don't need to be appreciated by my boss, my company. That's voodoo stuff. We all want it. We crave it. I'll tell you what, as a 76-year-old chairman of this company, I'm in charge of the little things today. I'm called chairman cheerleader. If I'm not appreciated by my son, it's a bad day in that company, I'll tell you that. Legitimate needs. How about reviews? I remember the reviews we used to have. Shows up to work on time, check the box. Happy on his job, check the box. Wow, today we dig deep into stuff. We talk about what's good and what isn't so good. Strengths and weaknesses. Reviews have got to be purposeful. Funerals. In our company, weddings are optional, funerals are mandatory. Show up. Ever lost a loved one and you wondered why Bill and Nancy didn't show up? I'll probably send a card later. We show up in numbers. Here's a big one, celebrations. Work is too big a part of our lives not to celebrate all these little victories we have. Austin, an 18-year-old cashier, been with us 6 months, scans a quart of strawberries, sees a moldy one on the bottom. Doesn't even, the customer right in front of him doesn't, say, look what I got here. Just passes it to the bagger, go on back, get another one, moldy berry. He had to sacrifice something. The line stayed a little longer, a couple gals maybe saying, he knew what was right, kid of character, got the strawberry. So that was a big opportunity to celebrate because I got a letter. I didn't know about it until I got the letter from Mother talking about this. My son had this berry and so forth, and I wanted you to know about it, and I thought, wow, this is neat stuff. So when Austin had his next shift, we had a little celebration, a little huddle up, another Sam Walton thing, with his peers and with some of the management team. We read the letter from this mom, this lady who got the bad berry, and put the gold boomerang on him, applauded, gave him a little bit of time to talk. We celebrated an 18-year-old kid that wasn't going to be with us for another year because it's a right thing to do. Do you do that in your company? Or is it just birthdays and Christmas and we throw a little party? And do we know the names of our associates, children? Do we care? We got enough other stuff to worry about? Celebrate makes us feel like winners, folks. You see, money doesn't motivate most people. It's a legitimate need. I'll tell you what motivates people: seeing opportunities, and then see the results of those opportunities, and then know you made a difference. Somebody in this Leading with Power group that started, I forget, it was Eau Claire, I believe. It trickled down to LaCrosse, and now it's in Madison. Somebody saw it as an opportunity, and it's kind of growing. It's early on for you guys. The results are starting to come in, though, aren't they? Now you know you made a difference. You're building relationships. You're making a difference. That's what motivates us. So your pay is your right. I mean, there's laws that tell us somewhat where we got to start with paying people. My praise is my gift to you. I'm not worth millions. I'm only worth how I feel. You want to make more money? Be harder to replace. Serve more people. That's how you make more money. Question is, what's it like working for you? Do you meet legitimate needs, or you just got a few people that I really love? I take care of those people. I'm telling, praising them all the time, making them feel like winners. But that guy that cleans the restrooms, or that receptionist that just is kind of moody, I just kind of give her a hi, Karen. That's it. I don't meet her legitimate needs. I don't tell her what her stuff is. Be the boss you wish your boss would be. Embrace change. Thanks, Brent. Think about this. Ponder on this for 5 seconds. Can you improve as a parent, a boss, an associate, without changing something you're presently doing? I think you all agreed that continuous improvement is where it is today. The old paradigm, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's continuous improvement. So how can we possibly do that without change? I remember a guy in the audience once said, repetition. I can be a better second baseman, but my dad just hit me 100 ground balls every morning before I go to school. That's how I can improve. And I said to him, isn't that change? Yeah, I guess it is. We cannot change unless we cannot improve unless we change something we're presently doing. Clinging to old paradigms gets us stuck while the world passes us by. And you know, you can look at businesses in your community, and I can in mine, that just haven't changed nothing. It's the same carpet, the same siding in a restaurant, the same people working there, the same menu, and they were once way up here. But they just didn't change anything. And then along come the Outbacks of the world, and then we blame these big chains for taking us out of business. We resist change. Here's a little exercise for you. If you think you don't have stuff you got to change, by the way, again, everybody knows what your stuff is. Everybody knew, 8 people knew that Dave is a poor listener. Big shot CEO, and he's a poor listener. What's your stuff? If you don't think you got stuff, do the blank piece of paper test. Just print up here. What is it about me you'd change if you could? You can put some lines on it if you want to. You give it to your spouse or your children or your best friend, your boss, your best friend, coworker, and sincerely ask them, I believe I got some stuff to change. What is it about me that you would change if you could do that? Take a couple days, but I'd really appreciate it if you'd bring that into me. I had 2 people come back to me, and both of them happened at the home, and I'm hoping to hear more of them at work, but I don't hear them. But as one guy says, and you talk about courage, he says, I wish you would stop swearing at Mom. yelling and swearing perhaps. And he's telling me he swears at his wife. I thought, wow, that's courage. Fix it. Another guy said, his son said, I wish you'd start paying more attention to my sister. It seems like, you spend more time with me, and it bothered him. He didn't bring it up at the kitchen table. There's not much of a kitchen table anymore, is it? We all eat on the run. But he's telling his dad, I wish you'd love my sister more than you love me. That's what this little exercise will do. Associates need to hear the truth. They can deal with the truth when they hear it. It's frightening when I have to guess how you feel about me. I'm going to start making some assumptions. Few things more difficult than breaking deep-seated habits, folks. How do we get people to change? Have open and honest discussions with them. Candor works. It really does. Might be mad at you for a couple days, but in the long run, it's going to work. Lastly, we're going to talk about, there's that leadership skills inventory thing. I got lost in there, but you see number 6, is a good listener. It's kind of painful yet to talk about that, but I'm pretty proud of the fact that I'm better than I used to be. Execute. Intentions minus actions equals squat. Intentions plus actions equals will. We all know that words don't tell us what other people believe. I'm going to lose 20 pounds by July 1st. I'm going to start loving my children more. I'm going to start going home after golf instead of having 3-4 beers before I go home. That's changed. Those are words, but our actions tell us what we believe. A great idea is worth $1. Execution of that idea is worth millions. A few years ago, we decided to pay our student employees 50 cents an hour, deduct it from their check. They had to agree to that, put it in an account that we had for them, and we would match it. So if they worked 20 hours a week, we took $10 out of their paycheck, put it in this account, and when they turned in their tuition or their book receipts, we matched that cost, whatever it was. We experimented with that about 40 years ago. Opportunity, results, it's making a difference. We're getting the best youth employment, partially because of that particular program we got. We got to think of ourselves like a gardener. You got a can of water in one hand and fertilizer in the other hand, and you got to stop and pull some weeds. Most of the time, you just nurture and tend to these people and watch them bloom, paying attention to them. It's your job. You signed up to do it, just as the coach did, your coaches did. Little tool on the execution thing is to write things down. When you write them down, you make a commitment to them. We carry pocket briefcases. And I go around the store, tour with a guy, and we see dirt, or we see an employee that isn't shaving regularly, and we point it out, and I'll take care of that, Dave. Didn't write it down. I said, well, where's your pocket briefcase? Well, I'll remember it. I don't trust our minds. We got a lot of stuff on our plate. Write it down. In summary, you and I, all of us, freely choose the kind of men and women we become. People of character or people of mediocrity. What are you becoming? The one thing I learned from our mentor, Mr. Hunter, is nothing stays the same. We're either becoming a better parent or a worse parent. We're either green and growing or we're ripe and rotting. Think about that. Nothing stays the same. Leadership is an awesome responsibility. Lots of people on mental cruise out there. Again, like I mentioned earlier, lives are turned upside down, jobs are lost. Be the leader your Creator intended you to be. I hope you've found your sweet spot, what you're really good at and what you really like to do. That's a sweet spot. When I talk to young people in school, that's the intersection between what we're good at and what we really like to do. Make the beginning of a new habit a major event in your life. What's that habit going to be? Maybe you got to do that test. What is it about me you'd change if you could? There's a lot of people counting on us. Taxpayers, friends, family, stockholders. Got to get out of your comfort zone. Change something. Think about this. When you and I retire, we're not going to be remembered for third quarter profits in 2010, record profits. And we got a little plaque maybe to go with it, a little celebration. We're not going to be remembered for that. We're going to be remembered for how many lives we changed, how many lives we served. My prayer for you is this: if you feel that stirring within you today, please don't wait another day. Get after it. Life is a gift. It's not an obligation. In closing, I'm going to read you a poem, and I'm going to give you a copy of it. If you so choose, you can come up and get one. It's called The Dash. Something I stole again, and that's why it was on the internet one day. A lady named Linda Ellis wrote this 250-word poem in a barn in a 2-hour period. We've become good acquaintances with her. In fact, my wife and I are building a park in a blighted area in Alaska, and it's called Dash Park. And it's opening this spring. So here's the poem that's being read now at a lot of funerals around our area. And I missed the chamber banquet Monday night, and I understand the lady, director of the chamber, read this poem to the group. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates of her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came her date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what that line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. Be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy's being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Be sure to pick one up. In closing, I want to do a little illustration. I know some of you have seen this, heard it. Francis Chan, Pastor Francis Chan, he used a little bit of a different analogy here, and I'm going to use it with a dash. But he brings this rope out, and he talks about picturing this rope as eternity. And it wraps around the universe millions and millions of times. It's never ending. If you look it up in Webster, eternity is defined as never-ending life after death. And his comment, Mr. Chan, was that we spend all our time worrying about the car, the cash, the house, the education. We don't spend any time about this never-ending life here on earth or in heaven. And then he brings this out, and I'm bringing it out too. This is our dash. This represents 80 years. That's a life expectancy today. And you saw the rest of it, eternity. And I'm right here now. And I'm pulling for some overtime, trust me. I feel pretty good. But just think how fast 80 years goes. Some of you, maybe the average age in here is 40. You've lived half your dash already. It's not too late to change some things that got to be changed or should be changed. You got to be up for it. You got to be able to take painful feedback. I did it. I made it work. Better than I used to be. Not as good as I want to be. So, think about it long and hard. How am I living my dash? How do I want to be remembered when my days are done here on earth? Thank you for your kind attention.